We live in the noisiest era in human history. Notifications vibrate in our pockets. Music fills every empty second. Podcasts play during commutes. Videos autoplay before we even decide to watch them. Conversations overlap. Screens glow late into the night. Our minds are never truly alone. And yet, there is one weapon the most powerful men and women in history have quietly mastered, something that costs nothing, requires no connections, and demands no physical strength. Silence. Not the awkward kind. Not forced isolation. But intentional, deliberate silence. Most people misunderstand it. They think silence is emptiness. A void. A lack of action. In reality, silence is concentrated power. Let me ask you something honestly. When was the last time you sat in complete silence for 10 uninterrupted minutes? No music. No phone. No background noise. No scrolling. Just you and your thoughts. If you struggle to remember, you're not alone. Modern life has trained us to fear that space. Because silence does something uncomfortable. It makes you face yourself. A successful executive once admitted something surprising. He always had headphones in, during workouts, in the car, at his desk. Music at work. Podcasts during lunch. Television at night. Even while falling asleep, something was playing in the background. One day he said, "I'm afraid of silence. When it gets quiet, my mind starts asking questions I don't want to answer. Questions about his choices. About his direction. About who he really was beneath the noise." That fear is more common than we admit. We fill every moment because we are avoiding the most important encounter of our lives, the encounter with ourselves. Throughout history, the greatest thinkers understood something we have forgotten: clarity is born in quiet. Albert Einstein often stepped away from intense problems and went on long solitary walks. When stuck, he allowed his mind to drift in stillness instead of forcing solutions. Isaac Newton's breakthroughs came during periods of deep contemplation and isolation. Their greatest ideas did not emerge in chaotic meetings or loud debates. They surfaced in silence. Modern neuroscience supports this. Creative insights tend to appear when the brain is in a low stimulation state, when neural noise decreases. That's why your best ideas often come in the shower, during a quiet morning, or while walking alone. In those moments, your brain shifts into a mode where connections form naturally. But here's the truth: you don't have to wait for random moments. You can create that state intentionally. Silence is not passive. It is strategic. The first power of silence is this: in silence, you hear what others cannot. This isn't mystical. It's practical. You begin to hear your intuition. You notice subtle signals from your body. You recognize patterns you previously ignored. Constant noise drowns out these signals. Silence amplifies them. There's a story about a business owner facing collapse. 200 employees. Millions in debt. Pressure from investors, advisors, consultants, everyone talking, everyone offering opinions. Meetings stacked on meetings. Finally, instead of adding another conversation, he locked himself in a room for 3 hours. No phone. No music. No interruptions. Just silence. In that quiet space, a strategy emerged, simple, unconventional, and clear. Within months, the company stabilized. Within a year, it was thriving. 3 hours of silence accomplished what months of discussion could not. Why? Because when external voices stop, internal clarity begins. We often assume strength comes from speaking loudly, reacting quickly, and responding instantly. But true power lies in measured response, not impulsive reaction. Silence creates space between stimulus and action. And in that space lives wisdom. The ancient philosopher Pythagoras once suggested that a fool is revealed by speech, while a wise person is recognized by silence. While the wording may vary across translations, the message remains timeless: restraint reveals depth. Silence is not weakness. It signals control. Think about the most respected person in a room. Often, it's not the one speaking the most. It's the one who listens carefully, speaks deliberately, and remains composed. Silence projects confidence. Silence suggests certainty. Silence creates gravity. In a world addicted to constant output, the person who can remain still possesses a rare advantage. And here's something uncomfortable: many people avoid silence because it exposes misalignment. When everything goes quiet, distractions disappear. You begin noticing dissatisfaction you've been masking. Goals you've postponed. Conversations you've avoided. Truths you've suppressed. Silence acts like a mirror. And mirrors don't lie. But that is precisely why it is powerful. Because once you see clearly, you can act clearly. In a world that never stops talking, choosing silence is an act of rebellion. It is a decision to reclaim your attention from algorithms, headlines, and endless commentary. It is the beginning of mental sovereignty. Most people are drowning in noise. But the few who deliberately cultivate silence gain something rare: clarity. And clarity, more than talent or luck, is what separates the ordinary from the exceptional. This is only the foundation. If silence creates clarity, then clarity unlocks something even more powerful: creativity. Most people believe creativity comes from collaboration, brainstorming sessions, constant input, and endless discussion. We are taught that innovation lives in crowded rooms filled with ideas bouncing off the walls. But history tells a different story. Many of the world's most transformative breakthroughs were born in solitude. When Albert Einstein struggled with complex theoretical problems, he didn't solve them in loud debates. He allowed his mind to wander in stillness. When Isaac Newton developed his foundational theories, he was removed from the chaos of city life. Nikola Tesla was known for spending long stretches alone, visualizing inventions in complete mental quiet before building them. These individuals weren't escaping the world. They were accessing a deeper level of thinking. Silence detonates creativity because it reduces interference. Your brain is constantly processing information, notifications, conversations, images, news, opinions. This creates cognitive clutter. When mental bandwidth is overloaded, original thought struggles to surface. You end up reacting instead of creating. In silence, something remarkable happens. The brain's default mode network, the system associated with imagination, reflection, and future planning, becomes more active. Instead of scanning for external threats or stimuli, your mind begins connecting distant ideas. Patterns that seemed unrelated suddenly link together. That aha moment. It usually doesn't appear when you're trying harder. It appears when you finally become still. Consider this: how often do your best ideas come when you stop actively searching for them? In the shower. During a quiet drive. Early in the morning before the world wakes up. Those moments are not coincidences. They are low-noise environments. Silence is not the absence of productivity, it is the birthplace of it. And yet, most modern men and women do the opposite when faced with a problem. They immediately search online. They text friends. They consume more information. They add more noise. What if the answer you're looking for is already within you, but buried under external input? Try this experiment. The next time you face a difficult decision, resist the urge to consult 5 people. Don't search for immediate answers. Instead, sit alone for 20 minutes with the problem. No phone. No background music. No distractions. Just you and the question. At first, it may feel uncomfortable. Your mind may jump around. You may feel restless. That's normal. You're withdrawing from constant stimulation. But if you stay with it, something shifts. Your thoughts begin to organize. Emotional noise decreases. A clearer perspective forms. Silence forces depth. It separates surface-level reactions from core insight. There is another dimension to this power: strategic silence in communication. Most people feel the need to fill every pause. In conversations, negotiations, or presentations, silence makes them anxious. They rush to speak, explain more, justify themselves, or soften their position. But silence, used deliberately, changes dynamics instantly. Imagine presenting an idea in a meeting. You explain your proposal clearly, then stop talking. Instead of rushing to defend it, you allow silence to hang in the air. That pause does several things. It communicates confidence. It signals that you are not desperate for approval. It gives others space to process, and often, to reveal more than they intended. In negotiation psychology, pauses create subtle pressure. Humans are wired to resolve discomfort. A prolonged silence can encourage the other party to fill the gap, sometimes by offering additional information, concessions, or clarity. The person who controls silence controls the rhythm of interaction. This is why strong leaders often speak less but say more. Their words are measured. Their pause is intentional. They do not compete for attention, attention naturally gravitates toward them. Silence amplifies presence. Have you ever noticed how the calmest person in a tense room often becomes the anchor? While others react emotionally, that person remains still, listening, observing. When they finally speak, everyone pays attention. Not because they are louder, but because they are centered. Silence builds that center. When you practice daily moments of stillness, you train your nervous system to remain steady under pressure. Instead of reacting impulsively, you create space to choose your response. And that space is power. In a hyper-connected world, constant expression is rewarded. Posting, commenting, sharing opinions instantly. But there is strength in withholding immediate reaction. There is authority in listening fully before speaking. Silence is not withdrawal from life. It is strategic positioning within it. Creativity grows in it. Confidence is projected through it. Influence expands because of it. While others rush to fill every second with output, the disciplined individual cultivates quiet intervals, and uses them to think deeper, see further, and act smarter. Most people are overstimulated and under-reflective. Silence corrects that imbalance. And this leads to something even more transformative, not just clearer thinking or stronger presence, but healing. Because beyond creativity and strategy, silence affects something fundamental inside you. Your nervous system. Beyond creativity. Beyond strategy. Beyond influence. Silence heals. We are living in what many call the most anxious period in modern history. Sleep disorders are common. Chronic stress feels normal. Attention spans are shrinking. People wake up tired, move through the day overstimulated, and fall asleep with screens inches from their faces. And we rarely ask a simple question. What is all this noise doing to our nervous system? Sound is not neutral. Constant stimulation keeps the brain in a low-level state of alertness. Notifications trigger microsurges of stress hormones. Background media prevents full mental recovery. Even when we think we are relaxing, we are still consuming. The human nervous system was not designed for endless input. It was designed for cycles, intensity and recovery, action and stillness, sound and silence. When silence disappears, recovery disappears with it. Studies in stress physiology show that short periods of complete quiet can significantly reduce cortisol levels, the primary stress hormone. In controlled settings, even a few minutes of stillness have been observed to calm the body more effectively than passive listening to relaxing music. Why? Because silence allows the nervous system to recalibrate. No external signals to decode. No social cues to analyze. No information to process. Just stillness. In that stillness, heart rate slows. Breathing deepens naturally. Muscles release tension that has been unconsciously held for hours. Silence becomes medicine. It's important to clarify something. This is not about complex meditation techniques. It's not about forcing positive thoughts or trying to clear your mind. That pressure often creates more tension. True silence practice is simpler. You sit. You turn everything off. You allow whatever thoughts arise to exist without chasing them. You do nothing. And in a culture obsessed with doing, that feels radical. There's a reason why many respected leaders, creatives, and high performers build quiet rituals into their daily routines. Not because it looks impressive. Not because it's trendy. But because it works. Intentional silence strengthens emotional regulation. When you regularly expose yourself to stillness, you become less reactive to chaos. Stressful situations don't hijack you as easily. You respond instead of explode. You think instead of panic. Over time, this compounds. 20 minutes before bed without screens. A silent morning walk. 5 minutes of sitting quietly before an important decision. Small acts. Powerful outcomes. Sleep improves because your brain is not overstimulated right before rest. Anxiety decreases because your system is not constantly triggered. Mental clarity increases because internal processing finally has space to complete. Silence restores internal order. There is also a deeper layer, identity. When external noise fades, you begin noticing which thoughts are truly yours and which were implanted by constant exposure to opinions, trends, and expectations. You start distinguishing between what you actually want and what you were conditioned to pursue. Without silence, identity becomes blurred. With silence, it sharpens. This is why many people avoid it. Because in quiet, illusions dissolve. You may realize you are chasing goals that don't align with you. You may recognize habits that no longer serve you. You may confront truths you postponed for years. But discomfort is not destruction. It is realignment. Henry David Thoreau once withdrew to a cabin near Walden Pond for an extended period of solitude. He wasn't escaping society, he was studying it by stepping outside of its noise. When he returned, his reflections influenced generations of thinkers and leaders. Extended silence changed his perspective. And that perspective changed others. You may not need 2 years in a cabin. But you might need 20 intentional minutes a day. In a world that profits from your distraction, silence is rebellion. In a culture that equates volume with importance, restraint becomes authority. Think about it. The person who constantly speaks loses impact. The person who reacts instantly loses depth. The person who cannot be alone loses control. But the one who can sit in silence without reaching for distraction, that person builds inner strength. Silence is not emptiness. It is compression. Like potential energy stored before release. It is the space where clarity forms, creativity ignites, strategy sharpens, and the nervous system repairs itself. And here is the final question. Will you continue filling every gap with noise created by others? Or will you reclaim your attention, your most valuable asset, and invest it in silence? You now understand something most people overlook. While others compete to be heard, you can cultivate the ability to listen, not only to the world, but to yourself. In a world that shouts, the one who remains composed commands attention. In a culture addicted to noise, the disciplined mind holds the advantage. Silence is not weakness. It is leverage. It is clarity. It is power waiting to be activated. The only thing left is whether you will practice it. You now understand something most people overlook. While others compete to be heard, you can cultivate the ability to listen, not only to the world, but to yourself. In a world that shouts, the one who remains composed commands attention. In a culture addicted to noise, the disciplined mind holds the advantage. Silence is not weakness. It is leverage. It is clarity. It is power waiting to be activated. The only thing left is whether you will practice it.